Hello everybody from Stockholm in Sweden, where you find me today about to take a ferry across the Baltic Sea to Helsinki in Finland, and it is by means of the Silja Serenade. And I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a really nice, comfortable and interesting cabin, because last night, honestly, I stayed in one of these capsule hotels. That is the first and last time I'm doing that. It was like being buried alive. It was like, in my opinion. So yeah, I didn't really get much sleep, but apparently this ferry is amazing, just like a cruise ship. Well, I've never been on a cruise ship, but I've been on lots of ferries, so it's almost time to check in. Why don't you come with me? We'll head into the terminal building. I'll do all the necessary, then I'll see you again once we get on board. I took the metro from Stockholm's central railway station to the ferry terminal here, alighting at Gärdet, which looked like the closest station. The ferry terminal is clearly signposted from the metro, but it's still a good 15-minute walk, but most of it is actually under covered walkways, which is handy. And the terminal building is spacious and modern. The ticketing booths are on your left here, but be warned, if you want to check in, it'll cost you an extra €5 using the people behind the desks. Hello, I'd like to check in, please.
Yeah.
What do you need from me? Passport?
We can just check your boarding pass.
Okay, bear with me a second.
Information.
To blow that up a little bit.
So we have a little check-in fee of €5
right.
to check in here, but it's free if you check in the machines right behind you. So
I'll tell you what, I'll go and check in at the machines.
yes,
Right, thanks for telling me.
And you can just make that QR code a little bit bigger,
Oh, cool.
and then just scan it in the green.
Oh, excellent.
Yes,
thank you very much. So I went to the automatic check-in machines, and yeah, unsurprisingly, it told me to go back to the check-in desk. Let's proceed to check-in desk. I've just been there. Okay. It said, please proceed to the check-in desk.
Okay, and you're welcome back here, and then we'll check you.
All right, great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was that I need to see your Interrail pass.
Ah, right. Oh, yes, of course. Of course, right. Bear with me a sec.
You didn't have a large backpack, so I didn't spot it.
I'm too old for that kind of thing. Alright, hang on a second then. Yeah, because it's given me a little bit of a discount, I think.
Yeah.
So. There you go, that's the ticket there.
Thank you.
Is that good enough? Thank you. Oh, lovely. Thank you, sir. Cheers. Bye-bye. Yeah, so as you probably gathered, this all happened because I was travelling on an Interrail ticket. I've been able to receive a small discount on my ferry crossing as a result of that, but all I needed to do was prove the validity of the pass, which is fine. And guess what? I didn't have to pay the €5 fee, whatever that was for. A nice friendly staff here though, and it was just a case of waiting until the gates opened at 15:15, then scanning my ticket and proceeding up the gangway towards the ship. Just to give you an idea of the size of this ferry, there were 2 gangway entrances here. Passengers were directed to one or the other, depending on your cabin number. Hi there.
Go here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was in cabin 8621, a very different kind of accommodation for me, and I'll show you why in a minute. Hello, 8621.
A6, so you need to go to that way.
That way?
Lift, yeah.
Brilliant.
6 is over there.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Hey.
But upon boarding the ship, I showed my ticket again and was directed somewhere, although I wasn't quite sure at this point where I was meant to be going. And the first impressions were, this ship is extremely large and compared to the vessels I've been on before. Anyway, I eventually found my way up to deck 8 and the right corridor for my cabin. Oh, right guys, made it to the cabin. Cabin number 8621 on, of course, deck 8. And so, yeah, before I get all my stuff everywhere, then it's a good idea, isn't it, to show you guys around. I haven't looked around the cabin myself yet. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, but the show must go on. And so, yeah. Right, okay, so, yeah, looking around, well, it could be a 4-berth cabin. As you can see, the bunks have been put away, so 2 on that side and 1 up there, and I will be sleeping on this one here tonight, I guess. But obviously you've got the ladders and stuff there for access. Now this is good, isn't it? You don't see this in many ferry cabins. A hairdryer. Not that I have got to worry too much about that, but you've also got a television up there. Have you got USB charging points? No, you haven't. No, but there's power here, and there's also power under that kind of bedside table there. A little seat and a bin. Okay, let's go and have a look in the bathroom then. Oh yes, very, very ferry, isn't it? It's lovely colours. Reminds me of quite an old Brittany Ferries kind of thing. Probably the Britannia or something like that from many years ago. And actually, don't forget this ferry was actually constructed in 1990, so it is getting on a bit. So I'll be interested to see how it's faring in terms of the condition of the ferry overall and the facilities they've got on offer. Anyway, so yeah, but it all looks pretty clean to me. Okay, and yeah, I was expecting this typical shower arrangement there. Well, the main thing is really that it is clean and it is private use only, as you would expect. Now then, at the start of this video I told you that this cabin is quite interesting in one respect. Well, the reason it's interesting is because I don't have a sea view, but I have this, which is a view of the inside of the ferry, the promenade. They call this cabin a promenade view cabin, and I could have had a sea view, but I decided to go for this because I just thought it's a little bit more interesting than your normal kind of cabin. So it feels like it's pretty soundproof. That was my one concern, but yeah, it's different, isn't it? Anyway, talking of the promenade, there are loads of things to see on this ship, so I will be heading out in a little bit once I freshen up, and of course I'm going to give you guys a comprehensive tour of the facilities on offer. So yeah, we'll go and have a look in a bit, and I will see you outside. We were due to depart at 16:45 from Stockholm, arriving into Helsinki at 10:30 the next morning, a journey time which I mistakenly thought was 17 3/4 hours, but then I realised that Finland is actually another hour ahead of Sweden, so it was in fact just 16 3/4 hours. And even so, I was still going to have my work cut out trying to get around to everything on this ship and take in some of the fantastic scenery along the way. It was pretty blustery up on deck 12 this is, by the way, so you do get an idea of how large the ship is. We departed a few minutes late, but yeah, no issues there. The first thing we have to do is perform a 180-degree turn and then proceed slowly through one of the many narrow channels that are protecting the city of Stockholm from the open sea. There really are some great views all around here, but yeah, I think some of the best views are actually from the open deck section at the bow. Anyway, I was pretty hungry at this point, so I took one of the ship's internal glass elevators down to the promenade deck. An early dinner for me, and a good old Swedish favourite. Right then guys, so yeah, I was absolutely starving. So as soon as we left port, just came down here to one of the restaurants. There are several restaurants. I think this is probably the best value for money restaurant. It's called the Fast Lane restaurant, that's the one. So yeah, and I think this is really good value. There's several main courses on the menu, and we started off with fish and chips, and then it went into some kind of Swedish stuff which I didn't understand, and then some burgers, and so she started going through it, and I just said, "Do you have meatballs?" She said, "Yes, we have meatballs." "I'll have meatballs, thank you very much, and a large Coke, and have a guess, right? All that and that and that and all that kind of stuff. €20. That is pretty good value in my opinion. And let me know what you think. I'm going to tuck in a minute, so yeah, there won't be much of this left. I can tell you I am starving. After I finish this, we're going to have a little bit more of a look around the ship, and I'll see you in a bit. Yes, an empty plate for me. The bread roll went as well shortly after this, and as I said, there is plenty of choice on board when it comes to food, and it's worth just walking along the promenade deck at this point just to show you what else is on offer. And this is on deck 7, by the way. You've got a useful ATM machine on your left and the main information desk on your right. And note the clocks here which give you the Finnish time and the Swedish time. And if you want to know the opening hours of all the facilities, they are listed here along with what's on in terms of entertainment. And there's a massive nautical chart on the wall here too, with LED lights indicating where we are on our passage. It's really old school, isn't it, this? But I loved it. Now back out there's a gift shop and a few fashion outlets and the Fast Lane restaurant which I'd just been eating in. And there's a small stage for entertainment at this level which I think was really for the benefit of passengers frequenting the wine bar next door. You then have the Bon Vivant fine dining restaurant, a few more elevators, the stairs to the buffet restaurant which I'll talk about later, the Happy Lobster which was a kind of a seafood restaurant, the Grill House a la carte restaurant and a coffee shop opposite that, and finally the Sea Pub right at the stern. Phew, that is 6 eateries altogether, and I haven't included the Italian restaurant yet on deck 6. Yeah, absolutely something for everyone and every price range. Okay, so that's just a taster of the ship's promenade deck, but yeah, it was a beautiful evening outside and I didn't want to miss a minute. Let's enjoy a little bit more of the scenery as we continue to pick our way through the narrow channels of the Swedish coastline. Right guys, so yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes into the journey, and I'll tell you what, the ship has to take it real steady, leaving port in Stockholm and navigating its way through all these really narrow, well, instead of me talking about it, let me just show you what I mean. See how close we are to shore, and we're just coming round here now. I'm assuming we've got to go through that passage there. Boy, it's pretty tight, isn't it? That, but obviously the guys have done it many times before, and so it's probably second nature. But yeah, for the first-time passenger like me on this route, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful evening. It's impressive, and yeah, you've just got to admire the skill and the seamanship of all the crew on board, really. But yeah, lovely evening. I'm going to stay out here for a while and just enjoy the views, I think. We were approaching the Oxupet passage here, which looks like a bit of a squeeze, doesn't it? But at around 180 metres wide, our ship, at 31.5 metres, easily fits through. Now these narrows are protected by the Frederiksborg Fortress, completed in 1735 to protect Stockholm from attack following the Great Nordic War. And it's actually quite deep here as well, between 17 and 38 metres, so yeah, again our ship with a draft of 7 metres makes it through with ease. And the sun deck up here on deck 12 is a great place to watch the scenery. Lots of thought has gone into this area. There's a children's play zone here and plenty of tables and chairs with protection from the wind. Now some of the outside bars and snack bars you can see were closed at this point, although they had been open for a short time earlier on. And there's some nicer seating here, and you've also got a glassed indoor area where you can look down on the promenade deck that you saw a little bit earlier on. Now up ahead you have a further deck area, deck 13, which is accessed by stairs or elevators. Now all decks are accessed by elevators, you just have to make sure you've got in the right one. But up on this deck, it's the highest public access area on the ship. You have an outside decking area with comfortable seating and pot plants, and inside was a kind of a karaoke nightclub sort of area, which was closed at this point, but I believe it did open later on, about 9 o'clock. I didn't partake on this occasion, but I did win a prize once with a rendition of Tainted Love in a Greek bar on Kefalonia. So let's see if we can get around the rest of the ship's interior features. Well, I've found my way to the Sea View Lounge here on deck 8, which is just forward of the upper tier of the Starlight Club. It's a quiet area with some great views over the bow of the ship. Now back down on deck 7, just behind the Starlight Club, are the gaming machines, arcade machines and a small casino, and that opened up later on in the evening. And now moving on to deck 6, and you have the large grand buffet area, and this is where you come if you've booked your meals in advance. And if you want the full buffet experience, well that's fine, but it's going to cost you €47 per person, adult price, and compare that with what I paid in the Fast Lane restaurant. It's up to you how you want to do it, but there is plenty of choice, and I'm glad I waited until I got on board. Behind the Grand Buffet is the tax-free Superstore. This is a massive shop. You know it's going to be big when you see trolleys at the door. And yeah, all the usual stuff is available. Alcohol, cigarettes, perfumes, you name it. I did actually buy some miniatures from here, which were very reasonably priced, and I've been struggling with toothache or earache or something during this trip, and a few Jack Daniels seemed like a good idea at the time. Obviously buying them from here was a lot cheaper than buying them at the bar. Also on deck 6, but tucked away a little bit really, was the Italian restaurant, which looked nice and quiet, and yeah, personally I would have probably chosen to go here if I hadn't already have eaten. I mean, it did look quite appealing, and yeah, finally on deck 6, believe it or not, was a conference centre. No idea what was going on inside, but I doubt I'd have been able to get past the desk, to be honest. And a couple of other areas I couldn't film for obvious reasons. The Silja Land Kids Zone down on deck 5, and right up back to deck 12, the Sunflower Oasis, which is where the swimming pool, jacuzzi and saunas are. A separate admission price for the swimming pool, it's €11 on weekdays, €14 at other times. And unfortunately I'd left my swimming costume at home, but yeah, I did get a few shots of this area later on once it had closed. I am in search of a postcard of the ship, and the very nice lady at the checkout in the massive Superstore told me that I can get one of them from the gift shop up here on deck 7. So let's go and have a look, see if I'll get lucky, shall we? So back on the promenade deck, the mood lighting outside the cabins here is great, isn't it? It looks absolutely amazing at night. And I found a gift shop which has everything you can imagine if you're after a memento of Sweden, Finland, or indeed the ship itself. All sorts of things really, from playing cards to cuddly toys. I remember when you could buy lots of this kind of stuff. I've got a packet of B&I playing cards at home, remember them? Anyway, I found my postcard, cost €1, and I had another one to add to my collection. I went back up to deck 12 and looked down on the promenade from the enclosed moonlight promenade area. Granted it wasn't dark at this point, but it's a great view of the interior from here anyway, and we were still making our way northeast through the fragmented Swedish coastline. A good time to give you a little bit more detail about our ship. Right guys, so back out on deck. We have been underway around about a little under 4 hours, and we are still meandering our way through the many islands and islets off the Swedish coastline, and yeah, really enjoying it so far. It's difficult really because there's so much to see inside the ship, but there's so much to see outside of the ship as well while it's still light, although it's dropping a little bit cold. And I didn't know this, but we're actually calling at Mariehamn tonight, which is the capital of Åland, which is the autonomous territory under Finnish sovereignty, and that's about 23:45, so getting close to midnight. To be honest, I'll probably be I hope I'll be asleep by then, because I do need a decent night's sleep tonight after last night's debacle. But yeah, it's what I'm going to do. I think the plan now is, now the wind's getting up again, is to head down to the bar for a nightcap, and maybe copyright strike permitting, I will catch a little bit of entertainment in the show bar or whatever it's called. So you join me downstairs in a little while, and yeah, I will see you then. Right, so this screen tells you what's on tonight, interestingly surrounded by the names and photos of the lead crew members. Now, wouldn't it be funny if the two somehow got mixed up, so that the bingo was being conducted by Mikael Kannelhoffy and our chief engineer was Harry the Seal? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just my odd sense of humour. Anyway, I'd missed the bingo, so I guess I'll never know. But there were two proper acts on stage in the Starlight nightclub, who I'm going to talk all over so that I don't end up with a copyright strike. Well, the first one was Dance Factory, and they were an act comprising of male and female vocalists, with a handful of dancers singing and dancing along to well-known songs. And then there was a full band, the Night Out Band, who performed well-known songs as well. Now, both acts did a couple of slots each and were of a very good standard. The female vocalist in Dance Factory in particular stood out for me. She was excellent. The Starlight nightclub itself, well, it's a good-sized entertainment space with tiered table seating surrounding the stage and bars at the rear. Remember, we're on a ferry. And prices were okay here too. I paid €6.90 for a beer pint and was able to find a seat right at the front of the stage. And after an hour or so, I retired to the Sea Pub for a nightcap, where we had a solo acoustic act singing predominantly Irish folk and modern pop songs. And great views over the stern here. I had a pint of Brooklyn craft beer, which was a tad expensive at €9.90. Yeah, first and last one of those for me. And after a super long day, I had one final walk out on deck, and in the distance I could see the lights of the Viking Gabriella that was also heading for Helsinki, having left Stockholm about half an hour before us. And Johnny Hoover was on that ferry, filming the same journey as me. Well, it looked like he'd been enjoying the views as much as I had earlier on, and a few beers in a bar, I would imagine. But do take a look at his channel, and I'd be interested to know whether you'd prefer a Viking line or Silja line on this particular trip. While breathing in the sea air one last time, I headed back to my cabin and into bed. The waters were calm. I was hoping for a great night's sleep. So the day started at Coffee & Co on the promenade deck, where I had a latte and a croissant. Price €7.80. Not too bad, that. Again, I could have pre-ordered a proper breakfast in the grand buffet, but that would have cost me €19.50, and I just don't eat a lot for breakfast. And this was absolutely fine for me. And then I had another stroll out on deck, another outside space actually on deck 7, which I'd only discovered that morning. But like deck 12, it was a comprehensive area where you could actually walk all the way around the front of the ship, where there was a great enclosed viewing area, and quite handy really on a morning like this, where the weather had closed in a bit. Good morning guys, from somewhere in the Baltic Sea, about 50 minutes away from Helsinki, and yeah, it's fair to say the weather's taken a little bit of a turn for the worse, but never mind, because I mean, yesterday evening, just coming out to Stockholm, just sort of guiding our way through those narrow islands and islets. Yeah, it's fantastic lights, wasn't it? I really enjoyed that bit. And then after that, went down to the Starlight Club and saw some really top-notch entertainment. Actually, it was really good. And then I think I had probably the best night's sleep on a ferry I have ever had. So yeah, all in all, a really good crossing. And like I said, we're not far away now. Not much to see really. It's very grey, isn't it? And when we get into Helsinki, well, I've got 1 or 2 things planned for the afternoon, but let's see how the weather goes. But anyway, I would really recommend it if you're in Scandinavia and you're wanting to go between the 2 cities. Then this is probably the best way of doing it, in my opinion. Yeah, I would caveat that by saying I haven't tried Viking yet, so I will be interested to see what Mr. Hoover makes of them. Now, a couple of things to close off. Firstly, the Wi-Fi. Important I tell you about this because, unlike some ferry companies I could mention, Wi-Fi on board is totally free for everybody, and it works brilliantly. YouTube, social media, etc., all my usual tests, they all loaded up quickly and played without issue. Now on to price. I paid 143 euros for this one-way crossing between Stockholm and Helsinki, and that included the promenade view cabin that you saw earlier on. You have to have a cabin, it's compulsory, but you can do it cheaper by getting an economy inside cabin. I thought most of the food and drink purchased on board, well for me anyway, was also reasonably priced. Silja have a captive audience on a long crossing, but they're not ripping people off. They're providing an excellent service with excellent entertainment, fantastic staff and good quality dining. And they have to, because as you've already seen, other companies operate on this route as well. Ultimately, I had a great time on this ship, and I hope that comes across in the film and the narration. I will definitely choose Silja Line again. And guys, if you enjoy watching this kind of content, please give the video a like and maybe even consider subscribing. It doesn't cost any money, but it helps to raise the profile of the channel, and in turn that generates more views. The more people I can get to watch my stuff, the more content I can make, and thank you so much for your support. As you can see, we were just approaching our berth in Helsinki, and I avoided the stampede to disembark by lingering up on the moonlight promenade deck until the gangway was ready. And by the time I got down there, it was fairly quiet, and oh look, this must be Harry the Seal, fresh from doing the bingo last night. Or was he? I waved him goodbye and made my way over to the terminal building and out. No customs formalities, I was just straight onto a tram that took me to Helsinki Central, where Mr. Hoover was waiting for me. Again, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, maybe try clicking on this one here, which was another great trip, or this one here that maybe wasn't so good. I'll see you on another adventure soon, and as always, until the next one, cheers for now.